Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we finally got it to work.
Yeah. We'll see.
Hi.
Let's see who joins us. I don't have the 1,000 folks on IG yet for my campaign account, but let's see who joins us.
Yeah, I don't either. So how
So
are you this morning?
I am I am in brain overload. There's so much going on, and
Yeah.
I'm just, I'm trying to make heads or tails of what's going on, what's happening with this case, and connecting the dots with everything else that's happening. And it's a lot, and it's by design. It's by
Mhm.
design. It's
Absolutely.
part of their whole flooding the zone game. I'm going to try to share this video. So yeah. So yeah, I was looking over the indictment,
Mhm.
and just I had a bunch of questions popped out immediately, you know.
Sure.
So I guess as people join, we can reintroduce ourselves. But what stood out for me was why when we were communicating before, I said the criminal indictment number
Hmm.
looks like it's from a 2011 case,
Sure
and
is.
it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't done criminal law in a really long time. I mean, I did that in the beginning when I was in law school. I worked for a prominent criminal defense attorney, but that's not been my wheelhouse. But still,
Yeah.
I clocked that. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So it's interesting that you mentioned that you worked for a criminal defense attorney when you were in law school because so did I. I before I started law school and while I was in law school, I was a paralegal for a solo practitioner criminal defense attorney who worked remotely in Virginia for the Committee for Public Counsel Services in Massachusetts. So it was like different kinds of law, much different area than what I practice now, and it's been since law school that I've done criminal law as well. So it's a little bit different for me now. But yeah, I looked at Pacer and I was like, whoa, this case was filed in March of 2011.
And just
One
so
of,
in case folks rewatch this,
mhm,
Pacer is the interface between in federal court where attorneys and parties file documents and decisions are filed. So these indictments, once they're unsealed, would be filed in Pacer, just to sort
yes,
of educate folks as we move along.
yes, exactly. And Pacer also allows you to file documents in criminal cases um, electronically, which I love because here in Virginia, we don't exactly have a uniform statewide electronic case management system. And so I love that Pacer has that for all of the federal courts. So yeah, I noticed that this case was originally filed in 2011 and it was filed against Maduro himself, his wife, his son. One of the DOJ prosecutors up until 2021 was Emil Bovey, which was really wild. Um, and there were quite a few indictments. There was the initial indictment from 2011. There was a first superseding indictment that was sealed sometime, I believe, 2020. And then there's this indictment that has been edited, not well, but
No,
edited
it's pretty.
nonetheless.
It's pretty terrible, actually.
It's really
With
sloppy.
yeah, it's very sloppy. So just for folks, an indictment will lay out the charges, and sometimes
Mhm.
it's quite specific because you when you're being charged with a criminal offense, by law you have to be made aware of specifically what you're being charged with. But a lot of the charges that are laid out, and there's some 20 some odd charges, 20, I don't know, 21 or something like that. They make sort of these sweeping statements about the different drug cartels, and Um, it's very petty. The language is very petty. So I'm wondering who exactly was behind drafting these. This is some of the same folks that are behind the petty posts on social media and so forth. So
Yeah.
yeah, give me some more of your impressions.
So I printed the whole indictment and I went through and highlighted it because that's who I am. Forever, a law student, looking through things. And I was looking through the separate counts. And one thing that I noticed as it relates to count two, I believe is where I started. Count, wait, count two, count three. Yeah. Starting at count two, they've added so much stuff and they did not go through the latter half. So they added in the middle. They did not go through the latter ends of it. They've only incorporated paragraphs 1 through 21. And so count two starts at paragraph 25. So I'm like, okay, did they not incorporate the four preceding paragraphs? They did the same thing with subsequent counts. And it's just sloppy. It doesn't get into venue. It doesn't get into
Yes,
jurisdiction at all, which I'm like, okay, so
that's
I practice civil law,
thank you
but
for
like,
saying that because
yeah,
my initial response was, why is this being done in the Southern District of New York? And talk about sloppy and of course, you know, being an attorney doesn't mean you can practice in every area. Every area is so specific. It's like you might as well call it a different profession.
right.
So the signatory on here is Jay Clayton, who's a
Mhm.
U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, only recently appointed, and he was Trump's SEC lead during Trump 1.0. This is not a person with really this, in my opinion, deep experience doing these types of criminal cases. I don't even think he's ever tried a case like this before. So, and a lot of U.S. attorneys, AUSAs, assistant U.S. attorneys in the Southern District have quit, have left. Jay Clayton also is tasked with um, Epstein.
Is he?
With I think they're going after Democrats, but looking at more charges emanating from the Epstein files.
Mhm.
So it seems like he's being given another task to do to avoid really any more exposure of the Epstein files. That's to
Yeah.
me part of this sort of this big effort and this big theatrical show that they're putting on. But you're right, it's super sloppy. And when I worked, so I used to work for Barry Slotnick. He was a very well-known criminal defense attorney in the New York area. He had defended Bernie Getz, that's a case from the 80s that I'm sort of telling on my age here, but he also him and his partners worked on major RICO cases, alleged mafia cases, and the indictments for those, they would be pages and pages and pages with real specifics. I mean, you could have 100-page indictment.
Yeah.
So this does look a little slapdash.
Yeah.
So
Saying right here. Let's
what's
make sure
your, yeah, give
here.
me some, I'm so, you're, tell me what you highlighted, why you highlighted.
Yeah, so the first thing that I looked at was the fact that they were talking about cocaine in this indictment. Now, what we've heard from Jump about the boat strikes has been fentanyl, fentanyl, fentanyl.
Hmm.
And this indictment has absolutely zero to do with fentanyl. It's all cocaine related. It's all like conspiracy to introduce cocaine into the United States. It's all manufacturing and distribution of cocaine. It has zero to do with fentanyl. So I'm like, okay, if they're
Yeah,
trying to use the boat strikes and all of that to justify the indictment, the capture, none of that is adding up here. So to your point about theatrics, this seems like very much political and legal theater to me.
even just the so I was listening, listening to different, I don't want to say pundits because I think that's sort of a not, sometimes not a nice term, but I was listening to different sources speak on
Hmm.
yesterday, and something that came up was that the photos of Maduro, he seems very very docile and surrounded by agents with DEA logos. Now, this operation, this kind of extraction, this kind of kidnapping that's not DEA's wheelhouse.
Right.
That's a military. That's a
Right.
military. That's a military effort.
Yeah.
So they're framing this as if it's part of it's part of a policing, enforcement, when it's not. This was a
Hmm.
straight up military operation. And they're also not talking about, this is something that's also not been really talked about by any congressional members or senators, but really even just the media. What happened to the crew of the oil tankers? Venezuelan oil tankers.
Right.
Where are these
Right.
people? We know where Maduro is because I'm in New York City. I saw the whole, parade, the parade charade happening here, and but where are those crew members? So it seems like there's this. It's also kind of like when Luigi Mangione was arrested, and they did a perp walk, and they made a big thing out of it that was quite unnecessary. But this looks like
Yeah.
they're trying to frame a military operation as a law enforcement operation, and it's not. And that's on purpose. That's
Hmm.
on purpose because they're trying to normalize and manufacture consent for this kind of behavior when it's completely unconstitutional. And our Congress people, they all should already be in DC, not even waiting for tomorrow, but talking to their Republican, the Dems and the Independents should be talking to their Republican counterparts and saying, listen, we may be on different sides of the aisle, but this is not right, unconstitutional. It's usurping Congress's power, and they need to get in their faces and get the
Absolutely.
Republicans on board.
Absolutely. One thing that I still carry with me all the time is my
I
pocket
love your pocket
constitution.
constitution.
And it's still got my highlights in it from law school. Yes, absolutely. This is the document that we, at the end of the day, this is our compass. This is our North Star. And like, it doesn't matter left, right, Republican, Democrat. We got to adhere to this. And this administration is not. And this capture has not. And so like that is step one for me. Like if I were in Congress right now, I would be absolutely livid, number one. Number two, I would be yelling and screaming from the rafters for impeachment, if not resignation, which we know he's not going to resign. So I'd be screaming for impeachment. And
Impeachment
so,
for him and impeachment for Marco Rubio and everyone down the chain. Now, at this
absolutely.
point, I wish we could teleport Dylan Blaha in here to talk about, refusal to follow illegal orders, because everyone who is participating in this is participating in illegal orders. And it's very obvious. I don't think it's gray area. So that's another area where I think Congress people, especially Congress people who have a military background and understand what it means to take the oath in that context, should be yelling from the rafters, from Capitol Hill, you don't have to follow illegal orders. And
Yes.
I'm not seeing that from any of our congressional reps or senators.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's what this was. And, it's interesting. Last night, while I was looking through this indictment, I started to listen to Trump's press conference. And oh my God, aside from all of the expletives that I was yelling about how he's lying, this is wrong, this is projection, I was picking out some of the things that he was saying. And he mentioned something about Maduro was in a ready position. He was ready and waiting for him. So I just have to wonder if this wasn't a whole setup.
I think it
I've
was
got my tinfoil hat on.
negotiated. Yeah. No, no,
Yeah.
no. Let me tell you, like, tinfoil hats are going to be coming into vogue because um, the we can't ignore what's right in front of us. And that was some of the other discussions being had in other, like I was listening to Colonial Outcast last night too, and they
Mhm.
were, Greg Stoker and the hosts there were talking about that this was probably a negotiation, um, and not just a straight up, plucking him out. But
Yeah.
it was negotiated. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But um, first and foremost, Trump and his administration has usurped Congress's power, and Congress is laying down and taking it. I mean, there's been a lot of statements. I've been sort of trashing, my senators, New York senators,
I've
Gillibrand
been
and
trashing your
Schumer.
senators too. I trashed
Yeah,
Schumer last
and
night.
even my Congress member Jerry Nadler, who's retiring,
Hmm.
and he should retire because he hasn't really done anything, hasn't said anything. And I'm like, I know you only have a year left, but you still have an obligation to your constituents, and every congressperson has an obligation to their constituents. And I don't care if you have to, work on a weekend.
Yeah.
This administration is, I believe too that initially they wanted to do this on Christmas Eve, but there was a weather issue, so they had to wait a few days. So
Yeah. That makes a whole lot of sense. And it, all of the things that I've seen, I'm like, this doesn't seem like it was, it needed to be all this big production. But then, Trump was saying that Maduro was in a ready position, but then I also saw reports that 40 civilians were unalived during these strikes, which I'm like, if he was ready and waiting, why did y'all have to come and drop bombs on the capital of Venezuela, kill innocent civilians, and like this was completely unnecessary. This is an unnecessary loss of human life. First of all, based in a severely illegal, unconstitutional action, and to top on to that, a mass unaliving. It's just absolutely insane.
and it
And
makes us not only have they killed innocent people, um, flouted the Constitution, and Congress has been absolutely derelict in allowing this to happen with no real pushback. It makes Americans unsafe.
yeah.
It exposes us to uh, retaliation from who knows,
Hmm.
not just Venezuela, but other parties. I mean, there are other interested parties who will use this as an opportunity to inflict harm on Americans, and they are exposing us. Now, it's interesting. You kind of referenced. I don't know if you actually said it, but like every accusation
A
is
confession.
a confession. And
Mhm.
I read when I was reading this superseding indictment, I was like, they could be describing their own administration.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm reading this, looking at it like, what? They're mentioning like he wanted to maintain power. Hello, January 6th. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. And there was something else that I wrote down that I wanted to share with you. Because I was just like, wow, that's extremely projection. He said during his presser about what happened in Venezuela, quote, Venezuela unilaterally seized American oil. Excuse me? Excuse me? We had a
And,
helicopter hovering over their oil tanker with
mhm.
American service members rappelling down onto the ship, seizing it by force. And you want to say that Venezuela unilaterally seized American oil? Every accusation is a confession.
And the problem is like the mainstream media isn't clocking that, isn't calling that out, and that's not being biased. That's factual. You when you're pointing out lies, is factual.
Right.
You know,
Right.
um,
We need people fact checking him in real time because this has gotten so out of hand. I mean, what was it? The Washington Post's tagline used to be "Democracy dies in darkness." Well, it's dark. It's dark.
it's very dark, and you know, I'm excited for us and for the the other courage candidates running, and we will bring huge change right away day one. But honestly, we don't have a year. We don't
Yeah.
have a year, and we need to push our reps and senators to act and get in the way and slow the gears down. One of the things I've heard from a lot of Democrats is like, we don't have the numbers, we don't have the numbers. Well, how do you get the numbers? You chip away, you chip away. Every day, somebody should be introducing articles of impeachment because there is one for every day.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
you
And it
know.
was funny. Sal and I were talking last night after you all left, and we mentioned about how I did my impeachment town hall on Friday. And since then, Friday night, late Friday night into Saturday morning, something new happened that would support a new article of impeachment. And so y'all will have something new to talk about than what I had in
Yeah.
mind. And it's like, it's so true. There is a new thing that happens every single day that could support an article of impeachment against at least one person, if not Trump himself, in this administration. And it's like, take your pick about what you want to fight for, what you want to go after him for, because there is something coming down the pike every 24 hours. We turn our heads and there's a new thing.
hmm And as attorneys, we not only do we have an oath to the Constitution, but we have our individual bar oaths.
Right?
And what has been very depressing to me is to see the attorneys who've taken these oaths get on board or kind of look or even look away to things that are flatly unconstitutional and,
Hmm.
and unethical. And so I wonder, what this, Jay Clayton, at the end of the day, whether his career is going to survive because, first of all, he does not have the bona fides to do this type of case, but
Right.
so it's sort of reckless to sign your name on something that's so sloppy,
Hmm.
um, and and then and support it. And it's just I think we should start reporting folks to their individual state bars as well. I mean, I did try it with the head of my former agency. So for the folks who will watch this on the replay, I was a federal administrative judge with the EEOC, and I was fired for whistleblowing. And I did bring a complaint against the head of my agency who was um, directing judges in the agency and attorneys in the agency to do things that were flatly against our enabling legislation and Supreme Court precedent. And they investigated, but ultimately the DC bar didn't take any kind of action. So that was a little disappointing, but we still need to put the pressure on from
Absolutely.
every angle. Use every tool we have.
For sure. I mean, imagine if 10 people had reported the supervising attorney that was responsible for your firing. The DC bar may have done something about it then. Um, yeah, I completely agree. I've been thinking about it for a good portion of the year. Like, at what point do we as attorneys have a responsibility? Because the profession of the law is a self regulating profession. And so, at what point do we have an obligation as citizens, as attorneys, to report somebody like Pam Bondi? I'll give you an example too. I'm in Virginia, and we recently had a very big news story about Lindsay Halligan, who was unlawfully appointed as the U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, also known as the Rocket Docket. And I mean, it was horrific, the things that she allegedly did with the grand jury in order to get an indictment against James Comey. And I mean, the absolute recklessness down to misrepresenting the Constitution, Supreme Court precedents, telling the grand jury that it wasn't up to her to prove his guilt, but for him to prove his innocence. I mean, that is directly burden shifting in violation
Yeah.
of the Fifth Amendment. I mean, my God, like this was the kind of thing that I argued as a paralegal drafting appellate briefs for a criminal defense attorney when I was before I started law school. Like this is less than day one stuff. Like this is before you get into law school. This is I'm studying to get into law school type of stuff.
Hmm.
This is flatly completely and totally against the Constitution, against everything that we stand for as Americans. And that's what she did. Like, do I have an obligation as a member of the bar in the Commonwealth of Virginia to go and report her to the bar? Granted, I don't think she's even licensed in Virginia. I think she's licensed in Florida. But still, practicing in federal court here, does that become now my obligation to go report her? Who knows?
Yeah, but we need to be using every tool, and
Yeah.
Congress people can do this too. You know, reps and senators can do this too. They can make complaints to the bar, but I don't
Mhm.
see them happening. And honestly, if we were already in Congress, I would be doing a daily update for my constituents, saying everything I'm doing to slow this down. And
Absolutely.
that would include reporting people to the state bars that they're admitted, who
Hmm.
are um, who are doing things against our Constitution.
Absolutely.
So,
Like we have to. And the fact that our representatives and senators aren't using everything to their full disposal, like I haven't seen a filibuster recently in the Senate.
I
And we
mean,
know. We know that when Democrats were in power, Republicans and Mitch McConnell himself were filibustering everything. Like that slows down the gears. Where is that, Chuck?
and they're allowing themselves to be bullied.
Yeah.
So when you set that example, it's very deflating for your constituents. You have folks like me and you who will ride hard for the people regardless, but it makes it that much harder. And the more, the braver you are, the sooner you are brave, the more people you can bring on board. If folks would have, in Congress would have been, ringing the alarm bells from day one, like I was, we might have already had an impeachment.
Yeah.
And we have seen, staunch MAGA Republicans, like Marjorie Taylor Greene or even Nancy Mace
Yep.
was, visibly upset about the Epstein files. We need to keep on those folks who are maybe on the bubble and can be brought into the light and say, look, it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on, but this is bad. It's
Yep.
bad for your constituents. It's bad for Americans. It's bad globally. What are you going to
Yeah.
do about it? At the end of the day, do you want to be on the right side of history and fight this and join together and fight this so that we don't have to live on edge every day, worried? Or are you going to like lie down and let it happen? Um, I mean, because there will be consequences eventually for people who have been complicit.
Absolutely. And one thing that I've been thinking about, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well, both as having worked for a criminal defense attorney, but also as having been an ALJ. I am looking at all of this, looking at all of the players in his administration. I'm like, my God, this looks like a RICO case all the way around. Like
Yeah.
racketeering, it's basically the mafia with him as the mob boss.
Well, that's what as I was reading this indictment, I was like, all you need to do is change a few names and you have Trump and his whole administration, including
Yeah.
Marco Rubio. This is another thing. We knew who Marco Rubio was. Every single senator voted to confirm his nomination. So whenever a senator, especially a Democrat, comes with a statement on social media about, the horrors that we're enduring, I jump in there and I said, well, you did vote to confirm Marco Rubio. It
Yep.
doesn't matter whether Democratic senators had the numbers to actually stop a nomination from going through, but it's a show of force. You know, even if it's 49-51, you hold that line. These people are not qualified to
Hmm.
do these jobs. None of them. None of
None
them.
of them.
None of them. So, you know, miss me with the tepid social media statements. You know, at least acknowledge the harm you've done in confirming in being part of confirming these really dangerous people, and then do something.
Yeah.
You know, say, you know what, I messed up. I should not have voted yes to confirm Marco Rubio, and this is what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to stand in the way every time they try to do to you know it interject in another country's business. I mean, nobody was Maduro's fan, but we don't have any business there.
Yeah. And that's the part that gets me. Like I see a bunch of comments on my videos about this whole situation talking about, oh, Maduro was a dictator and the people were suffering under him. Yeah, but that's not the point. That's not the point. Like we don't have to be world police, number
Mhm.
one. Number two, it is not incumbent on the United States to break not only our laws and our constitution, but also international law to go and get him. Like it's not our job. It's not our duty. It's not legal. Like,
And nobody asked us to. Now,
no.
there are other ways. There are ways that we can support other countries to, to support true democracy. But
Hmm.
we got to clean our own house first.
Amen.
Like, we have lost credibility
Hmm.
globally. Now,
Yeah.
listen, there were problems in the last administration. I'm not, the Dems are not off the hook. Um, and at least with Trump and company, they tell you what they're going to do. People just don't believe them, or they don't want to believe it, that they're this wretched. But
Yeah.
yeah, we have our own problems to deal with, and there are
Yes,
ways
we do.
to support other countries that don't involve expensive, unnecessary military force.
And lethal force too. Like 40 civilians did not have to die in order for this theatrics to take place. And at the end of the day, we both know that they're going in there for oil. I mean, Trump said it himself. He said, and I wrote this down too. Um, where is it? We're going to have our big US oil companies go in because the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust for a really long time, pumping almost nothing in comparison to what they could have pumped. Like it's clear from those statements. Those are direct quotes, by the way. Like I was sitting there and I was
They
like,
sound like
mm-hmm,
direct quotes.
mm-hmm. I was like, oh my God. So he's telling everyone that this is all about us going in to steal their resources. Like it's
Very
nothing
colonizer
else.
mentality.
So much so, very imperialistic. And I'm just like, so we're on the wrong side of history, clearly. And the people that are supporting this, the people in the United States that are supporting this, I'm like, how can you support this? We're literally going in there, killing their people, and stealing their stuff.
And then if it gets real messy, the way things are in Venezuela, it's very decentralized. So
Mhm.
you'll have militia, decentralized militia already there. And what are we going to do? We're going to send in our forces to deal with that. That's like Vietnam all over again. Like
Yeah,
we're not. I don't. I don't want. First of all, I don't want Venezuelans killed. I don't want our U.S. military killed.
right.
We don't belong
Same.
there.
Yep.
And this lust for oil. It, yesterday there was a big protest in Manhattan, not
Mhm.
too far from me, and people were chanting "No blood for oil," and that's the same thing that they were chanting when the Iraq War broke out. When I was in college,
Yeah.
I was at Columbia and chanting "No blood for oil." It's like, when is it going to stop? Well, we have the opportunity as courage candidates with our courage candidate cohort on day one to stop normalizing this kind of interference in other countries' business.
100%. Yes. And it was very um symbolistic waking up Saturday morning. It was very much like 2002 all over again. And my husband served in Afghanistan, and I went downstairs, I woke up, I saw the news. My mom had texted me. It was all over social media. And I go downstairs and I tell my husband, I was like, so overnight we invaded and struck Venezuela. He's like, really? Like it's Afghanistan all over again.
Which was Iraq, which
Yeah,
was, just go back in history. It's like
yeah,
we never learn.
right.
And it never ends well. And it makes us a bad global neighbor too.
Hmm.
Now
Yeah,
I know you're caretaker for a veteran as well, right?
yeah, that would be my husband. Hmm.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so you see firsthand the
Yes,
deleterious effects of all of this.
so much
My
so.
my step a big reason, a big part of my platform is supporting veterans. My stepfather, who passed 2 years ago, was
Sorry.
a chopper pilot in Vietnam and served in the Gulf Wars, and talking about other effects just beyond just invading and stealing oil tankers and killing people. My stepfather died of a glioblastoma that was 100%
Hmm.
attributed to his exposure to Agent Orange and chemicals in the Gulf.
Yeah,
So, this kind of, if this becomes a forever war, we also risk polluting the environment and polluting people's bodies
again.
even more again. So there's just so many reasons for reps and senators to stop this in its tracks.
Yes,
Beyond just
absolutely.
like the immediate, we have to think about future generations.
Hmm.
The US military is the world's biggest polluter, and so we can do something about that, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the irony is not lost on me that somebody who dodged the draft 5 times is now talking about, oh, we're going in there and we're gonna go and invade and run their government. Like,
Hmm. Mr. Bone Spurs has a lot
yeah,
of uh, has a lot of nerve when it's not him or his child
yeah, the
strapping
audacity.
on, a flak jacket and picking up a weapon and going into another country to fight for oil,
Right.
and also to distract from the well documented child trafficking ring that Trump was part of.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Have you seen the lawsuit that came out in the Palm Beach Circuit Court, or Palm Beach District Court, whatever they call the local court there in Palm Beach County? It's a like 149-page complaint filed by multiple survivors who allege that Trump was operating a child trafficking ring identical to Epstein.
I have not seen that.
I'll have to send you the link
We'll
to
we'll
it.
do we'll do another live.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't gone through that entire complaint because it is hefty, but it drops some big names in it. So the lawsuit is against Trump, both individually and in his capacity as president, civil suit for over $310 million and multiple survivors. And it also drops Elon's name and Bill Gates's name in it, which I'm like, ooh, I want to know the tea. I want to know the
Well,
tea.
speaking of settlements, another question I had was, why is this particular indictment, why is this in the Southern District of New York, besides the administration being able to put Jay Clayton um, on it? There was a filing of a civil judgment in district court in Florida against Maduro for
Hmm.
tens of millions of dollars. So I was like, why didn't they just bring this in Miami? First of all, they wouldn't have had to fly him to New York. They could have brought him
Right.
right to Florida,
Hmm.
and it there's I don't know. I mean, I know that's a civil case, but it just seemed to make more sense, especially since this indictment that they're like trying to rehabilitate is old,
Yeah.
and the dates are from some of the actions they're talking about are 2006, 2007. You know,
Paragraph 4 talks about 1999. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So there's a lot more. I mean, I'm gonna go through it again with a fine tooth comb and have some more thoughts. So maybe we can do another live and perhaps bring in some of our courage candidates who might have our other lawyers in the bunch, and
Yeah.
maybe some
Yeah.
of our military folks who can add some more context to this.
Yeah, that sounds good. I know you have to jump, so I will sign off here and say that I loved speaking with
Me
you. And
too.
yes, we'll definitely have to do this again soon.
Great.
All
Have a
right, take care.
Sunday.
Have a
Talk
good
to you soon.
day. Bye.
Bye.